Tummo breathing. So after that short introduction video we just had, and in case you haven't seen that, we will link it down in the description below. So in case you haven't seen the introduction to Tummo, check it out. If you have seen it already, so here we are introducing the actual Tummo breathing. And just to recap from our previous introduction, that the Tummo breathing is not the Wim Hof breathing. Because this video is on YouTube, many people probably looking for Tummo breathing will already have that idea that the Wim Hof method or the Wim Hof breathing or anything related to that would be Tummo. No, it's not. And we will introduce the actual Tummo breathing according to the Tibetan Buddhist tradition.
Yeah, it's also helpful, but it's not Tummo.
Yes. And before we do the Tummo breathing, in relation to the breathing methods being used for Tummo, it's very good to know that there are actually plenty of exercises related to the core breathing of Tummo. So the actual Tummo breathing, which we will also do now together, is the Vase breathing, the so-called Vase breathing, or if you're American, the Vase breathing.
And these exercises, how they are called?
Yeah, the exercises are called, in short, Trul Core, in the more elaborate way, Tsa Lung Trul Core. So to explain the meaning of these Tibetan words, so Tsa is the channel, are the channels, the energy channels and pathways going through the body. And Lung is the energy. So Lung is really the Tibetan equivalent to what the Chinese know as Chi, or the Indians know as Prana, so the life force, the life energy. And also Tibetans often call it wind energy.
Yeah.
And I think
Lung is also from Tibetan translated literally as wind, but it also refers to energy that flows throughout our body.
Yeah, I think that meaning why they say often wind energy is because it is a very subtle phenomena. Just like wind, we don't see the wind, but we can feel it when we are standing outside. We can see it, how it affects the trees.
Yeah.
But it's nothing solid. It is a subtle energy sensation.
Unless it's a hurricane.
And yeah, so Tsa channels, Lung, wind or energy, and then Trul Core meaning magic wheel or magic circle.
Yeah.
And this name comes from because many of the exercises that are being done as a preparation for actual Tummo are having very circular movements. So for example, one would do the Vase breathing, which we are about to do, then with the circular movements of the belly, or then there are also all types of movements for the rest of the body where one would hold a breath and have all types of physical yogas.
Yes, and exercising belly horizontally, vertically, in all type of ways. That's why it's a core. It's a circle.
Yeah, a wheel.
Wheel.
Yeah.
Wheel. And so you mean that the Tsa Lung Trul Core is a set of exercises. It's not one exercise, right?
Yes, it is a name for a whole category of physical yogas that are always done, or usually mostly done, in connection with breath holds. And there
How many of them?
Yeah, that's actually a good point. So there are all types of traditions. According to the 6 yogas of Naropa and Niguma, the main set of exercises are 6 physical exercises. Also, not to be misunderstood with the 6 yogas of Naropa.
Yeah,
the 6 yogas of Naropa are not the 6 physical exercises. The 6 physical exercises of Naropa are part of the very first of the actual 6 yogas.
Yes.
So the 6 physical exercises are part of the Tummo practice. And
introduction, preparation for the body and internal network system of energy pathways.
Absolutely. And then there are other traditions who, for example, in some of the Kagyu schools, there are up to 108 different physical exercises. So there are all types of variations and subcategories of physical yogas.
Depends on tradition, because it also worth mentioning, Tummo has many different traditions, and even within the Tibetan Buddhism, there are several that are different one from another in a small, subtle ways or methods, and also in the bigger ways. So what we are practicing and what the transmission we received from our dear Lama Glenn Mullen, it is a one of a kind, or actually we received 2, But there are many, and that's why if you maybe heard some of, or maybe you are part of one tradition and you will hear from us something different, don't get immediately fired up because there are just many different types.
Yes. However, really the Tibetan Buddhist Tummo methods, no matter from which school, are all much closer to each other than they would be to the Wim Hof method. Just to keep that in mind, that really that the Wim Hof method is something else than Tibetan Buddhist Tummo meditation. And yeah, so of course, why doing the breathing, why doing the physical, or also the physical yogas? It certainly has a lot of the benefits, physical benefits on the body. That means really we activate the brain chemistry, we release happiness hormones in the brain, but also through that the belly movements we will release more serotonin, which is to 95% produced in the intestines. So the most important neurotransmitter for happiness in the body comes from our intestines and not the brain. So also that is being activated. So there are all types of these physical benefits that create then an ideal basis of relaxation and good feelings for actual meditation.
Yes,
And
and also one of the reasons why we work together with body, because some people might say, like, if it is a spiritual practice leading to enlightenment, why to focus on body in the first place? It is all about the mind or spirit or soul, whatever you call it. And you know, having the human experience, we have experience of living in a human body, and all of the actions and processes that are happening within our body transfers or being translated into our spiritual self, in our emotional self. So we are like multiple layered type of a vehicle, sometimes being called like a body-mind complex. And that's why inducing some of the reactions within our neurobiosystem, we are affecting our mind as a byproduct or as a parallel function. That's why working together with the body and being fully aware of it, exercise awareness and mindfulness of the transformation within our energy system, will also then train our awareness and create different type of reaction and phenomena and experiences in our mind.
yes, and as actually Marpa Lotsama, the Tibetan Buddhist master who brought the 6 yogas of Naropa from India to Tibet, as he said, as long as we live, the body is the mind, and because there's no separation between body and mind. For us ordinary beings, we make the big separation between what is mind, and it's anyway only our idea we have, and our physical bodily sensations. But for an enlightened being, there's absolutely no more separation between any of that. And yeah, as long as we live, as you say, like we experience through the body, so the body function is absolutely crucial to the way we perceive the world.
Yeah, and maybe one more thing regarding that topic. If you are coming from the Catholic background and maybe you've heard about isolating the mind from the body or giving a little bit more harsh treatment to the body so it induces more spiritual experiences, you might feel a little bit confused. But also when we relate to the story of Buddha Shakyamuni, he also had that period of really not mistreating his body. He tried to put it into the kind of tight regime to in order to do exactly the same, to experience the freedom in his mind, to separate himself, to set himself free from it. And guess what? The more he was doing it, the least he had freedom to do so. And there was a period in his time when he didn't eat almost at all, just barely surviving, and he thought that that's the path to enlightenment. But then he understood that restricting body, it is also restricting mind. And that's why the middle way of tightening the string in a way that it can play, but not too loose that it loses the sound, or not too tight so it breaks, is the way to go. And this is also the balance exercise that we are training in Tummo as well.
Okay, so how about we do the Vase Breathing? So as mentioned, usually when doing Tummo, there would be all types of physical yogas as a preparation. Also, if we don't do the physical yogas, usually at least the 9-round breathing is being done. in order to purify the lungs. However, to keep it to the essence, we will dive directly into the Vase breathing now. And it's ultimately very simple. One thing that is important to know is it is a deep belly breath hold. So what we really want to learn in the first place is that whenever we breathe in, our belly comes out. Whenever we breathe out, our belly comes back in.
Just to make it a visual depiction of what we are talking about, this is a vase. So why is it called a vase breathing? Because the vase has an expanded belly. And we try to recreate it in our body while breathing, while taking the breath, and hold it in expanded abdomen. And this is just an analogy, visual.
So, yeah, so as a first preparation, we really want to make sure that we are able to breathe into the belly. And for many people, that's a big, real challenge. So many people, when you say breathe deeply in, you might notice something like only breath goes into the chest. So what we here really want to learn in the first place is that when we breathe in, the belly expands. And for that, really the diaphragm has to be relaxed so that when we deeply breathe in, the lungs can expand. And through that expansion of the lungs, the diaphragm moves down, the organs are gently pressed down, and the belly pops out. So this we want to learn in the first place, and maybe for that we can just place our hands on the belly and have a few of the deep in and out breaths. And if you have a difficulty feeling it, just try to connect to breathing into the belly and to expand the belly for as much as possible. So slowly and deeply breathing in and then breathing out. Deeply in, belly comes out. Fully out, belly comes back in. In, out. Sometimes the question comes up, can I still breathe into the upper lung as well? Yes, you can, but most importantly, you always want to have the belly moving first, and you want to have the main emphasis on the belly, so you can breathe in into the belly as deep as you can, try to expand, and then you can still fill the rest of the lung up all the way into the neck, and later we will combine it for the actual Vase breathing. So this is really the basis for a good Vase breath.
Yeah. And it's good to also mention that sometimes even that step requires few weeks or even months of training, because if we are living our life full of stress and like either mental constriction because we are not happy with our life, or we feel a lot of pressure either from within or without, then we tend to have this very shallow breath, very short and on the level of the lungs. So if we want to train the abdomen breathing, sometimes it takes quite a while. So it also be patient with yourself.
Yes, very good point. But then, assuming we all have mastered belly breathing already,
in 1 minute, wow.
We'll go to the Vase breathing and the way it's being done. So actually for the main Tummo, then later there are channels visualized and chakras, and there's a certain way the energies flow. For the sake of doing the Vase breathing itself as a preparation, we just have a body that is a little bit like a balloon.
Yeah.
We can visualize it's a shell of light and it's completely hollow. And what we want to do then is when we breathe slowly in through the both nostrils, mouth closed, and we just imagine that the wind we breathe in, the air we breathe in, goes to a point 4 finger widths below the navel. And then once we have breathed into the belly like that, we gently press down the diaphragm. So we are pressing down from above. And then we gently contract the muscles of the pelvic floor. So we are pulling up from below. And in this way then we hold the breath around the belly region, 4 finger widths below the navel. And what this gentle contraction of the pelvic floor does, and also the pressing down of the diaphragm, it's closing the energetic movement out of that region of the body. So that once we release it, we have an even stronger flow of actually energy happening. So we're building energy in that way.
Yeah, it creates a certain tension in there, tension of energy. It's also like you would press a balloon from both sides. What it will do, it will start to expand. It will create maybe a temperature. Hey, Tummo. So this is for that.
Yes. And we hold the breath for as long as it's comfortable. So here we are not trying now to force ourselves holding the breath for as long as possible. We're holding it until the reflex to breathe in again becomes strong, and then we gently release the breath. There are all types of methods of how to release the breath. The general way of doing it is really just slowly out through the nose. Not through the mouth, just slowly breathing out through the nose. So let's do it.
And when it comes to restricting the breath or holding the breath, it's being said that it's good to hold it for as long as 80% of your capacity of holding it still is there, but not more. So you can still have this 20% of the breath that you can breathe out gently. Another and gasping for air again. Then it means that you're stressing your system, and it's just counterintuitive.
Yes, so let's try it out. Before we take a vase breath, it's always good first to empty the lung properly, so that we also have the ability to fully breathe in. So as a preparation, you can just take one deep in breath, and then fully breathing out, fully emptying the lung, and then slowly and deeply in, pressing down the diaphragm, and gently pulling up the pelvic floor, and then we hold the breath 4 finger widths below the navel, inside of our body. And whenever we feel like, we gently release the breath through both nostrils, slowly breathing out. And then you can immediately take another vase breath, fully in, pressing down, pulling up, then breathing out whenever you feel like. And let's have one more. Fully deeply in. Slowly releasing the breath whenever you feel like. And then also a few words about the posture. So often it's done sitting cross-legged in a half or full lotus, but you can also do it sitting on a chair. Important would be just to sit straight, upright, and the hands are usually folded in the lap. There are other postures like that, but yeah, let's not go into too much detail. As a general guideline, you can just keep your hands folded in the lap. Otherwise, if that's for some reason uncomfortable, in whatever way that's easy for now.
And also one word about the vase breath itself, because as restricting the breath, holding it for a little while, can also induce certain type of mental functions. So you might start to experience intense emotions. Some people start to feel strong fear, or maybe some of the flashbacks, or maybe something else, or maybe you're just short of breath. Maybe you're not used to holding it at all. So whatever stress that you start sensing, either in your physicality or maybe in your mental state, should be for you a sign to pause. So it doesn't mean you have to push more. No, it's just the reverse. It's good to start breathing gently again, without the vase. Just breathe in and out to calm down the system again. And that happens for many reasons, and because the body is not used to that type of training, or because, as I say, it impacts some of our emotions. Some people have also a fear of being choked, so that can be also something that they start to feel, that they start maybe being stressed about not having oxygen. So this is all part of the training if you want to train Tummo. So, and that, as I said, it requires sometimes months of training from the basics. It's not like you can just dive in and to achieve enlightenment. First, we need to deal with our body to resolve some of the issues, maybe some traumas stored in our body that this type of training can also induce. That's why some people say it is dangerous. It's not dangerous if you're doing it properly. If you're doing it properly, it means listening to your body, listening to what is happening inside. As I say on the Buddha's example, we are not trying to overcome the body. We try to train it, stretch the limits of comfortable training, because we want ultimately to go beyond our physical restriction, beyond our mental limitations, and that's the process. And acknowledging that, honoring that, is the way to go.
Yes, so while doing the vase breathing, then just meditating in that way with the gentle breath holds, you might already notice that just focusing on the breath hold for finger widths below the navel, that you will get some sensation of a warmth, maybe some subtle bliss or joy is appearing. And even especially then on the out breath, you might notice that it feels like something starts moving from deep inside of the body up centrally, upward inside of the body. And here actually important, it's not in the spine. So with the Tummo practice, we're not working with energy movement in the spine. It is really in the center, in the core of the body. And just notice how it feels. And you might notice some sensation.
Again, some visual representation, an example of Purma. If it is of our spine, right, this is our belly, so the central channel is just in front of the spine. So it's really in the center of in the core of our body.
Yes. Okay, so let's have maybe 3 more breaths in your own pace, in your own rhythm. And just notice how it feels. Make sure you have all the essential points correct. That means you're sitting straight, relaxed, gently, deeply breathing in. As mentioned, first breathing into the belly. You can still breathe into the chest, but then you want to press down the diaphragm, pull up the muscles of the pelvic floor, and don't do it too tight. Don't squeeze your pelvic floor or diaphragm in a way that you start tensing up, because that could also cause some of the negative side effects. You're stressing your system if you do that too strong, forcefully. So just gently pressing down, pulling up, hold the breath for finger widths below the navel, place your mind internally at that part of the body, hold for as long as it feels comfortable, and then gently release the breath.
Yeah, the pelvic floor, how it is to be contracted, is like really gently as that. It's not like no, it's just like you breathe in, pull down the diaphragm, and that's it. And in that way you're closing the system, but you are not constricting it.
Okay, so let's take 3 more breaths in your own rhythm, your own pace. And then whenever you conclude the vase breathing, just notice how it feels in the body. And even just with the vase breathing itself, or also any of the other yantras, the Tsa Lung core exercises, you also can already notice maybe that you always want to keep a mental eye for the awareness that is beyond the ordinary conception, a state of natural consciousness that is in between the thoughts, beyond the thoughts. You might notice how that gets invoked and stronger through the vase breathing. And then we just rest in that way. So here now we had an introduction to the actual Tummo breathing. There are various variations how to do the breathing. Even for the vase breathing itself, there are various types of tricks, like for example swallowing after the in-breath in order to have a natural downward movement, to get more of the energy down in the body. So there are all types of techniques additionally to be applied, various variations of how to breathe out. But as a general practice, this is how the vase breathing is done. And so in the next video we will do an actual Tummo meditation together.
Yes, because it's good to emphasize in here the vase breathing is still not Tummo. Tummo breathing is not Tummo, it's only the method within the meditation that is a full Buddhist meditation. And together with the most important ingredient, your motivation to do so, for doing meditating, achieving enlightenment for the benefit of all. Even without that ingredient, the Tummo is not Tummo. It's some kind of training of breathing, like maybe calming a little bit the breath, maybe dealing with some traumas, maybe expanding your capacity, lung capacity, bringing more oxygen to the tissue, and so on. But it's not Tummo. Tummo is a meditation to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all, in a certain way respecting the tradition of that practice that you receive the transmission of. So that's in putting things in the context.
Yeah, so see you for a short Tummo meditation in the third part of this short series.
See you there.